Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Telemedicine Talks. Happy 2026. This is our first episode of the new year where we have somebody joining us. And yeah, this is a great one. I'm excited to talk about this. We have Sharmeen Aqeel. She's the founder and CEO of Lavora, and it's a fintech company that reimagines how independent healthcare practices access capital. I think, again, this is a good topic because a lot of us here are looking into how we start our own businesses, and not a lot of us are that business savvy and how to access money. And just furthermore, Lavora builds financial solutions that respects your time and operational focus and enables you, the healthcare leaders, to secure funding without being buried in all the paperwork that we all love, right? We're already stuck with documenting and EHRs, so forth and so on. And really, again, a lot of us don't know the money side, don't know the business side. So I'd love to delve into what your solution is and really how your approach to that. And please educate us on the business aspect. So Sharmeen, thank you for joining us. Totally appreciate you taking your time.
Thank you so much, Leo, and thank you for the wonderful introduction. I am so excited to speak about those financial challenges, and I have some experience now with working with the clinics, and I can tell you that in terms of work, I don't think that solving financial problem is the best thing doctors wants to do in their day or during their day.
Yeah, I don't know about the other docs here or providers here, but I think I skipped out on that class during medical school because I have zero clue on how to do it. I skipped out on a lot of classes in medical school. Don't tell anybody. But yes, no. So this is definitely needed info on our end. Now, before we delve into that, I warned you before a time, but the one question we always ask the guests is, or one of the two, is doing what you're doing now. Is this what you always wanted to do growing up, or did you have another plan for yourself?
I had, you know what? I always remember this phrase of Steve Jobs is that your life is breadcrumbs. You're going through your past experiences, making your way to the future. And to answer simply to your question, no. Who would imagine going in the financial? But one thing is sure that there's one small thing, which is the value and the direction where I'm going as a company and as a person is human centered design. So this is something I would say directly related to what I wanted to do when I was a teenager and then what I'm doing now. Giving you a little bit of my bio, I started my education as a designer. I love design, but soon I wanted to make a design more useful for people. And once I've done my graduation, I started working as a user experience designer, which evolved towards product designers, evolved towards product leadership team. So I was leading teams for last 7 years. And then I started looking at the small problem when I feel like I'm too qualified to solve small problem. And then I switched to solve a bigger problem, which is this gap of banks and lenders, which are extremely financial focused to make a bridge with the healthcare who do need capital, who need to run their clinic and do need the financial understanding, also money through the loans. So how can I make things easier for both parties? To lenders who can get qualified borrowers and to the borrowers who will get approved as quickly as possible whenever they apply for loans. And so this is where I started solving the bigger problem just through the life that I have been leading so far.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, a lot of the CEOs we talked about, it's funny, started out design, right? Started out, hey, we have a problem and trying to fix that, whether it's handbag design or any other design. Yeah, it's a recurring theme. No, but no, thank you for taking your time. Now, getting finances, getting money, not a lot of the providers here, the doctors here, a lot of their experience has been just strict clinical work, right? They've always been employed. They've always been in some system and they've never necessarily had to think about finding money or raising capital, so forth and so on. And in your experience now that you've been doing this, especially working in the healthcare world, what do you have good tips and tricks on how to do that? Also, multiple part question is, what don't we know? What do the providers, the people that are establishing this, especially with our background, what do we need to know to start?
That's the core of the business that I'm doing is to helping healthcare practitioners understand where they are today and where they are going. And in terms of understanding, I would say that I'm not a finance person. I was a designer. But when I started looking at this problem, I started deconstructing all the complexities in this finance world. And after so many months working with the clinics, I found that we made things extremely complicated, which they are not. We are using some jargon to make P&L statement. And as you said, if someone had been employed the whole time, they don't know what is the P&L statement. The P&L statement, if I say in the simple words, is that how many cash is coming in. At the end of the day, the P&L statement, which looks extremely complicated, in reality is nothing but money coming. And at the end of the day, you're looking that either you're losing or you are in the profit. So those simple things can be and could be understood in an easy way. But we make those statements, spreadsheets, and this entry, that entry, in cash inflows, cash outflows. So, what I want to say here is that one of the first thing that we are doing is we are helping healthcare practitioners to understand their numbers and to say that if they need to track a few things, what would be those few things without their accountant?
Yeah, no, providers are notoriously known to make things way more complicated than it really is. And to try to sound smart and try to show people that, hey, I understand, but sometimes they make it too complicated. So, what common, other than making too complicated and doing that, what's the best way to do it? What's the best way to approach it? And what are other mistakes that you've seen that you've had to reverse and help these healthcare practitioners back out of and kind of straighten away?
Yeah, so I would say the number one thing that healthcare practitioner looking at, especially when they're in the growth phase, is their statistics according to the patient. The patient is their lifeline of any healthcare business. So, if they're looking at a patient, for example, if it's a dental clinic, the per patient cost is higher than what the patient is paying, you're going towards the loss. Looking it from the patient's perspective, it makes things easier and also makes your calculations easier than you expect. The more patients you have, the more per machine or per someone that you have hired. So for example, one hygienist, how many patients she can handle? If her schedule is not fully booked, if she has only 20% booking, it means that the hygienist might be too expensive her to hire. So maybe she should have a contractor. So those kind of statistic starting from the patient really gives them a good lens of how their business is doing. I want to add one more thing in here is that we have this there is this term of cash inflows and cash outflows. So again, people are using the extreme jargons. In reality, is that what are your fixed costs and what are your occasional costs? So if you see that, for example, one clinic, they have to pay the rent, they have to pay the loan for their equipment, etc. Those are all those things which are going every month. So understanding that what are the fixed costs and what are going to be the variables is also helps them to understand what's going on. And even though if you have lower months, because healthcare is also all about seasonalities, December was a great
Mm.
month for so many healthcare areas like dentists. The insurance was about to be done, so everyone was getting their treatments done. Whilst January is going to be a slower month.
Yeah.
In this seasonality, you cannot change your fixed costs. Understanding what are the fixed costs and how you're going to manage it in slower months also give you a good understanding of where the clinic is going. And if you want to grow the clinic, how you will be controlling this a graph of multiple months together.
Yeah, no, that's good info. You're right. And now looking at Lavora, right? I think one of your big focus is, finding the money, finding how are we going to find the money to pay for all this? Not a lot of our providers can go out and bootstrap and bankroll themselves. Can you speak about the different options that these healthcare practices have to help finance themselves and how Lavora and how you could help them do that?
Yeah, so that's another interesting angle for a growth of a clinic. Nobody can be bootstrapped. Maybe initially, but not after 6 months. When 6 months, when you see that you need some more, you cannot cover your working capital, or you need to pay for the payroll, then you do need finances. So there are two things. One is in this finance world, big banks, which can give you the best interest on this time. But the problem is the process is slower and you don't know if you will be approved or not because they are more towards risk averse. On the other hand, we have private lenders compared to the banks. Their interest rate will be slightly higher. I would say slightly, not always like double or triple. It's slightly higher. They can provide fast capital and they are not as risk averse as the bank. So you're standing in this way and you need to see that what is the best option for you today. So, in elaborating on this example, I would say that if someone needs to go towards acquiring an existing business, so I would say the first thing they should do, and if this person has 4 to 6 months to understand that this is the business they should be buying or acquiring, then I would say first option should be the bank because they can think about it. Bank will give the best interest rate, etc. If it's a running business for 6 months, they need to hire a new equipment. For example, a med spa, they need to start laser treatment for their patients. They need a fast capital because they might already have bookings, but the capacity of current laser machine is not enough. So they need to add more machines. In that case, bank is extremely slower. If you calculate the interest rate, how much higher it's going to be compared to the banks, it will be marginal because losing patient treatments is going to cost more than the interest rate. So I would say go always towards fast alternate lenders and Livora. This is what we solicitate wherever there's someone is looking for a loan which is not a higher amount and they need it fast. We help them out. And there is also another thing which we call term loans, revenue based funding. Those are also things that banks are running behind and to assess what is the right term for the clinics who are looking for. Alternate lenders, they are more flexible, they are more in the listening mode, and also they are more competitive. They want to beat the other lender. So what Livora we do is that instead of matching with one lender, we match your application with multiple providers. So you get the best offer. So I would say that yes, you have different scenarios where sometimes bank is going to be a favorable option, but there are scenarios where bank is not an option. If you want to grow, you have to go towards other areas. And I recommend them to explore what options they have.
Now, in the telehealth space, I see, especially in the growth phase, Phoebe, what are things that probably that you've seen in your experience, especially when you were building kind of your startups? What were the bottlenecks in terms of cash flow and examples of, hey, we needed cash, it was hard to find, we needed this to this. Do you have any good examples of that when you were building your startup?
Yeah, no, and I think it really depends. Like to me, from my experience in working with different clients, I think it really depends on their model. So for me, anybody who's doing anything brick and mortar, of course, you're going to have higher overhead. And I've seen, like, to your point, like they needed investors, they needed partners, they needed something because they didn't have $200,000 to come out of pocket. On the flip side, I think one of the things that my clients underestimate is the need for cash flow when it comes to just marketing. So it's the
Yeah.
idea of it takes money to make money. And I know, like, for me, as somebody who's like, I don't do ads, I don't do any of that. I have a great referral network, but in such a competitive market, you have to go that route. And so I think some of it to me is when I talk to clients, especially in the telemedicine side, the majority of it goes towards staffing to make sure that they have the right people. From a private practice perspective, that's a little less needed. And then on the flip side, like the marketing spend of you gotta invest to go to conferences. You need some sort of capital to be able to set you up and get you so you can focus. I think the big thing for me is when you think about the investments, you want to make sure that you have enough time and cash flow so that you can actually focus on your business versus having to split time, still working W-2, that whole thing.
And also to engineering as well. I think what I'd see too with the business that I work with, too, as the patient base grows and as they're scaling, the kind of the tech platform that's built out or the solutions that were built out can't handle the increased flow or the change in workflow. And there's a scramble. And I think Sharmeen, to your point, people are going to need fast capital, right? Because a lot of these changes, marketing, engineering, I think a lot of them are done in retrospect, right? Ideally, you want to do things prospectively, right? But then, I've seen a lot of instances where problems arise and they need to throw money at it to fix the problems. And how long does a bank take usually if they're like, oh, this is a good idea, to get the money from the banks versus the private lenders? Can you comment on that?
This is where, again, private lenders plays a big role. Frankly speaking, according to what I have learned so far, is that bank, they have a very high cost of underwriting. So they are looking for bigger loan types. And those bigger loans sometimes don't fit on the marketing expenses or some other kind of engineering expenses. They're more looking for the private acquisition, and then or you are adding a new room, you have hundreds of thousands of capital that you need, and the bank will love you. But when you need a couple of thousands of dollars, like 50K, 70K, to boost your marketing area, this is where the private lenders, they come in. And one other thing that I love about the partners that I'm working on is that they're more looking at your vision, the story you're going. Giving you a recent client that I was working with, she had a dental clinic and she was extremely naive. She thought that she is going to open the clinic and the clients will come. Well, no, she has to invest in Google Ads. She has to do this. And
Right.
that those were the costs she underestimated when she applied for a bank loan. She got the bank loan. Now she has an established service, but she has to pump continuous money towards marketing and towards other areas. And this is where the private lenders come to fill the gap so that those areas will not stop any clinic to grow.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Because the bank is not going to underwrite that, right? What are you going to give the bank? A promise of marketing, a promise of good engineering, right? I don't know. I don't know. I don't see the banks really necessarily being like, oh, what a great idea. Yeah, I'll definitely give you money for that promise. And no, that's a good example. Now, in that scenario, so hard was it for your client to find somebody to finance in terms of being successful in that process? How have you found your clients to be successful in selling kind of their business? Any tips or tricks on how to sell your business when you're looking for money, when you're trying to approach these private lenders?
Yeah, there are three things I would say that if they have it, then they have a 80% chance of success, even though they cannot explain how they're going to spend their money in marketing. So number one thing is, what are your revenues? Private lenders, they're looking at how much money coming in your bank. They're looking at your bank statement, which is the second point, is how much you're spending versus how much is coming. And for those things, you don't need accountant. All you need is to connect your bank with the portal, and then all the information is going to be securely provided. These two things are not only easy to have, but it gives the health of the business. That this business is growing. The person who's doing it knows how to handle everything all together. So those give you a snapshot of who you are and where you're going. The third thing is number of months and number of years in the business. This is something extremely underestimated, as it's not a finance thing, but the private lenders, they need to build a confidence that if you will be able to give them back the amount that you have asked for. And if they see that you have been running this practice for some time, you have consistent revenues, your bank statement gives you a better picture, then they can go and ask for money. They don't have to create an extensive business plan just for marketing. I believe that if you need to acquire a new business, yes, you need to go through to many areas. But for small capitals, for example, for the payroll, you have a tight cash for next 2 months. If it's going to pick up after 2 months, you will get the money back. But for this 2 months, you need some quick cash. With those three things, private lenders will provide the capital. So again, this is what I was saying at the beginning, that clinics think that finance world is extremely complicated. But if there are few basics that they can understand and they can start discussing with all this revenues, bank statement, a number of months or years in business, they have a higher chance to get funding if they don't have these three.
Now, what if the startup is in their growth phase? So it takes what? Just to break even, if you're lucky, 6 months, 2 years, 18 months to up to 2 years to break even, and 2 to 3 years to turn profit. how are you going to convince these private lenders to be like, hey, I'm good, especially if you're expectedly like bleeding money, especially in the startup time. Then that's a time where you really need the money as a healthcare provider starting up your business. What's the best way to do that and set yourself up?
That is a very interesting question. And as you said, they also know that any business needs at least 1.5 year to 2 years to become profitable. And so you don't even need to explain it. But what they are looking for is that, do you have a clientele or not? This is going to be the backbone of your argument. If you have business for 6 months and you have 5 clients so far, you might going to have a hard time to get loan. But if you see that, yes, you have a higher cost, but you are doubling your clientele every 2 months, then it shows that you are in the right direction. Yes, one more thing that people underestimate, it's also again not a financial thing, but how much your calendar is full, how much bookings you are going to have in next 6 months. And in many practices, especially in the dentistry, people do booking in 4 months, that okay, then the new checkup, there is one more client who's going to be returned in next 4 months. So those are the things which give the projection to any lender, and enough confidence that this clinic will provide the money back that they're lending them.
Oh, that's a good point because yeah, it's in my mind, it's going to be hard just strictly by your money numbers alone in the startup phase to convince people to,
Yeah.
to
It's
think.
it's actually pretty interesting. So I'm bootstrapped. I've been bootstrapped since day one. I'm in a different industry, so I have zero overhead. So it's very different. But I think the interesting thing about it is that they request a P&L. They really just want to see, because I did actually end up going and seeking a line of credit. And they just want to make sure that you have clients coming in and that your idea has been validated enough to where you have potential people that you can sell to. I was able to, again, pretty simply get approved. I do have one question though, because one of the things that was a shocker for me was like the interest rate of some of these business loans. Can you talk to us a little bit about what are some of those expectations that people could see and that are normal versus some that are not? So I'll be like, I got a business line of credit through like my normal bank. It was like 40% interest. So I've never used it because I'm like, oh my God, like
Good question,
what
actually.
in the
Yeah.
world? But to me, I think that was something that shocked me a little bit from somebody who's not in that space so much, that kind of took me off guard or caught me off guard.
Yeah, you know what? This is also the scariest point of going towards private lending is we don't have an idea. A normal person who has never asked for a loan, they don't know what kind of loan interest they will receive. But I would say today, the numbers is between 8% to 15%. They're always better than the credit card loans. The one thing I would say, even though my lenders are fast and they can unlock funding within a week, credit card is even faster. But the problem with the credit card is that the interest rate is extremely high. And I would say there's also the gap of education. They don't know that between big banks, the lower interest and the highest interest rate of the credit card, there is something which is in the middle. And this is where these private lenders are sitting. One thing that I learned that in terms of a statistic is whenever someone is looking for a loan, the first thing they do is to go to their own bank and search in the search bar of the bank what loans exist instead of going outside and asking. This is funny. If we get rejected or we are thinking that maybe bank is the only option we have, we get depressed. We said it, okay, nothing else. And then maybe credit card. But there is this middle world, which might not be as good as bank, but it's still something that you can afford and you can get help to get grow.
And follow-up question to that, that's a great point, is, yeah, what do you look for? What's a good, like, private lending bank or loan terms? Phoebe, thank God you didn't use a 40%. But yeah, so
Yeah.
what, knowing, trying to educate, what people don't know, what should they look out for? What are the red flags? You're like, oh, this is a sucky loan versus, hey, this is something that I could actually work with.
I would say the first thing they should do is to compare. You get to one option and you think that's it. I would say that this is where also I'm filling the gap with Livora, is that with one application you can get 3 to 4 options and you can see which option is best for you. Comparison is the only way that you will see that if who is the best provider. And I would say that there is On one hand, there is interest rate. And the second is that what kind of loan you're looking for. There is something new that I learned in this business is revenue-based funding. And revenue-based funding, even though the interest rate might not be as lower as a term loan, but the revenue-based funding is always attached to how much revenues you have in 1 month. So I'll give you an example. If you had a good month, you got 40K in a month, your interest rate is going to be 10% and you will be able to reimburse is as quicker than you expected. But if there's a slower month and you got 15K, it's still 10% of your revenues. The revenue based funding goes up and down with your revenues. So yes, looking at interest rate and comparing is one thing, but on the other thing is also what kind of loan term is best suited for your business.
No, that's a good point. I'm actually trying to read up on that right now. In terms of shopping around for loans, then what's your recommendations on how to shop? How many lenders should you approach? What kind of questions should you ask? In terms of the different kind of loans, you've talked about one of them. Is there what verbiage do you go in there? How do you sound smart when shopping for a loan?
It's hard to say that how to sound smart. Your number speaking who you are. So again, if you have these three things handy, that you are a growing business, maybe not profitable today, maybe not next year, but you are growing and your clientele shows it. And second is, yes, you have money coming in your bank. So the lenders, they started being attracted to you only with those information, because lenders, and they also have a lot of money and they want to give loans. I would say, when I started Livora, I thought that it's going to be extremely hard to create the networks of lenders and as well as the borrowers. But I was shocked that lenders, when they came to know that I'm building a platform where qualified borrowers will come and ask for loan, they said, we want to be your partner. Like, it was, I cannot say how easy it was for me. Long story short, if you're looking for a loan, your number of years of business or months of business, your revenue statement, and just telling them that how much clients you are getting more and more every month is more than enough to attract lenders and give you the best offer.
And so approaching your platform as an example, and you'd say no if you don't want to say it, but like when you go, somebody says, hey, can you find me a loan? How many people do you approach? Is it just the entire network, or do you pick and choose? Do certain lenders look for certain things? Why use Livora, right? Versus trying to do this on your own. The answer is probably very obvious. Doing it on your own is very time intensive, so forth and so on. You probably don't have the network or know, but what are the pluses to do that?
So the number one thing is each lender is different. They all give me their credit boxes. So what I mean from credit box is, some lenders, they want business from 6 months. Some, they say that, no, we want 12 months. Some of them, they're capping with certain amount, 100K. They cannot give a loan more than 100K. Some of them, they are up to 2 million. And the one who is 2 million, they are not interested in 100K. So looking at the amount they're asking, the number of years in the business, Livora, we have this platform that I call it a borrower portal. Whenever someone apply for a loan, we match their information with the lenders. And the AI software, it does the work because it has all the information of the different lenders. And we can choose the lenders which will be attracted to this kind of business. So this is where I see a gap of technology in finance and the healthcare business. I personally, being a product designer, I knew how to create this workflow, but I was so shocked that it was not a rocket science to understand different lenders' credit boxes and create one platform where we will be able to match. I believe in next few years, thanks to all the development in the AI, it's going to be more and more democratic. Everyone will have access to this kind of platform where they can apply once and get multiple offers. And so, just coming back to your point, yes, you can shop it by yourself. It's going to be time consuming. And also, you might not know that if this is the right lender for you. And lastly, I would say that I have this trust with my lenders and I provide them only qualified borrowers. So going through a website like Livora, it just filters who will qualify and who will not qualify. And one thing that we do also is, if a clinic is not qualified today, I provide them the financial templates and a little bit more
Interesting.
areas where they can exactly improve. So we have developed this borrower readiness portal, which gives them a scoring that, okay, you are this much month in business, you have this much profit per patient, and where you're standing. If your score is low, we will tell you exactly at what area you need to be to improve. And if your score is high, you're ready to go, just apply, you get funding. So this is where we are developing an ecosystem where we can help a clinic wherever stage they are.
Yeah, no, that's reassuring because I know a lot of people out there, especially starting their businesses, right? They don't have the time to do this. This is super time consuming. And again, as much as doctors think we know everything, we just don't know where to start. Sometimes, most of the times, we don't know where to go. And yeah, it's reassuring to hear that there's somebody doing it for us and knows how to do it. And plus, it sounds like too, the lenders trust the process. And I know there's no real success rate, but it sounds like it'd probably be more successful going through a known process like this versus going it out on your own.
And also, as I started in the beginning, healthcare especially, they don't know how the finance world works. And so during my initial interviews, I found many back and forth with the bank managers. They have half of the document, then they go back and then get more different. And most of the applications, they are extremely standard. So they don't even understand that what kind of business that they are in. That this is where we are targeting as a company, that how we will be able to understand our business good enough that we will provide them the best lenders who will work with them.
Actually, that's a good point. In your experience, do you have the top 3 examples of, when healthcare providers approach you, you're like, oh man, this is a problem again. What is the top 3 recurring things that you see when the healthcare providers approach you? You're like, oh, yep, here it is.
Yeah, I would say the number one thing is the PNL statement. Recent example is I was speaking to a clinic and she got rejected with her own bank. She's already 3 years in business. She hired 2 more people in her clinic and she started taking her own salary that she was not taking before. And the bank rejected her is because she got $1,700 of loss in her PNL statement. She has all the signs that how much growing is the business, and $1,700 is nothing to a growing business, but the bank just rejected. And so this is the one struggle I see, is that sometimes the providers, they are extremely focused on the spreadsheets and not, okay, but let's see what's happening. There's this human connection that is sometimes missing, is to understand what's your vision, where you're going. And coming back to the point of the marketing, if you're spending a lot of money marketing, it will not give you results in next month. It will give you the results in next 6 months. So this is the time that you have to wait. So I would say if the most common is the PNL statement, which looks bad on the paper, but in reality, there are few things which started working, which going to the good direction, but the PNL doesn't look good. And my private lenders, this is not something that they ask for the first time. They again ask for these 3 things and they deprioritize PNL statement. They ask it if really they need it.
No, that's interesting. No, that's a good tip too, because I could see how that's a problem. People get really excited, just don't know. And it seems pretty harmless, but yeah, I could see how that could hurt them.
I think too, I mean, you have to understand, like, this is all like business stuff, right? How many physicians, and I know there are a lot of physicians or a lot of clinicians who have MBAs and have taken that route, but you don't really learn these things, right? So, like, in my experience working in health tech, like, I got to understand what it meant to do a P&L, right? Like, I understood what that was. I understood the difference between profit and revenue and how to calculate overhead and how the marketing and the sales cycle and not to over forecast and estimate. Whereas I think that a lot of providers don't quite have that same experience or kind of like insight into the direct experience. And so when they jump in, I think it's a little bit of a shock of, oh my gosh, I'm not getting patients and I need more money than I thought. And oh my gosh, this is a lot harder than I expected. And so I think like giving them options, especially like with the lower interest rate, where to me, Leo, you kind of know where I stand. Like, if you don't have to go the VC route, don't. You lose
Yeah.
control. It turns you into something different. And so if you're able to still build the practice you want, get to control everything, and then just pay the funds back, To me, that's just, it's such a safer, and I know it sucks. Everything sucks when you have to pay interest, but it is what it is, like the world we live
It
in.
has to, unless you have the capital up front. But
Yeah.
really, who does that? Nobody really does. And really, you're right. Not a lot of us know this. Yeah, you're right. A lot of people go through MBAs, but really just talking right now, I'm like going through Google and trying to catch up on just the terms that you're talking about, and just trying to understand the concepts here, because again, we're never taught this. That's on purpose, but we're never taught how to do this and how to approach this. So this is extremely helpful, knowing that one, there are people out there, people like you, that have the processing, have the tools to help us out. And not just that, but willing to work with the providers, with the healthcare businesses to get them where they need to be. So that's super, super reassuring. So we are getting on time though. The last question we always like to ask is, hey, thinking of where you are now and what you've learned so far, going back to yourself right after you graduated college, what's the one piece of advice that you would give yourself after learning what you've done?
You know what? If you have asked me the same question before I started Livora, I have responded different way. But the fun thing being owner of your own company, I can relate myself to other health clinics who are dreaming or who want to start their own practice. I would say that if you think that you can do it, you can do it. I believe that I'm a little bit late. Well, you should never say that. If you started, you're already ahead of. But I would say to younger Sharmeen is don't be afraid, take risk, and eventually nobody knows anything. And this is actually very important that nobody knows anything. If you are getting advice from someone who never tried, of course they will say they will give you a conservative advice. So I would say to myself that go for your dreams. If you want to own something, start it. It might take some time. Don't think yourself as a Mark Zuckerberg. I would say 99% of the entrepreneurs are not Mark Zuckerberg, but I think 99.999%. So you have to struggle, but you will get it. So nothing is more beautiful than pursuing your dreams.
That's a great piece of advice. A lot of us out here, especially a lot listening, we've started in this pathway and we've realized, hey, this is not the pathway where we want to end up. And I think a lot of us have hit this wall, right? As it hit this wall, one, it's the golden handcuffs. We're making enough, and why am I going to take the risk? But hit this wall thinking that no, we can't do it because this is the only thing we've trained to do. And that's refreshing to hear that, hey, yeah, it's a risk. A lot of providers, we are very risk adverse, right? It's just in our trait. If we're that risky in healthcare, maybe somebody will lose a life or not. But trying to translate that into the business world, that's a whole different ballgame. So that's awesome advice. Any last things you want to say, and just last things you want to impart to our audience?
I would say one thing that I started being really good at is what kind of capital you might need. So if we discuss it all along to our chat is you might not have enough capital to grow your business. So go and look for the options you have. If you get no from one bank or one lender, don't be disheartened. Just go for another one until you get a yes. This is also something I would say to younger me is that no is a sign of persistence. And the same thing for the capital. You got rejected by one. It's not necessary that you will get rejected another. So understand why it happened. Maybe today is not that a good time, but tomorrow it will be. Or maybe this is not the right provider. Don't accept no as a no. Build your business, grow your business, and do whatever it takes where you want to go.
Amazing. No, thank you so much. Now, how do they get in contact with you? How can they find Livora, and how can they reach you through Livora?
I'm extremely active on LinkedIn. Every day I do some educational content, especially the experiences I'm having with my clientele, why they got loan and what are the things which were missing. So I would say follow me on LinkedIn, contact me through direct messages. I'm always available for them. They can go to my website, www.livora.com. Just message me or how I can help them. And yeah, I'm extremely available for whatever help I can give to my clients.
Now, your LinkedIn is your name, right? Sharmeen Aqeel, SHARMEEN AQEEL. And Livora's website it's LYYVORA.com, correct?
Yes, correct.
Perfect. Perfect. Awesome. No, and yeah, no, this is great advice. Again, I think those out there that are starting their business, looking to start a business, this is definitely a viable solution. And it sounds like a great solution. And there's somebody willing to help you out. Go check Sharmeen out, Labora. Also, thank you for joining. If you want to drop us a line at Telemedicine Talks, it's Leo at telemedicinetalks.com. Phoebe loves it part. Phoebe at telemedicinetalks.com and info at telemedicinetalks.com. Sharmeen, thank you so much for your time and joining us. And thank you so much for the education. I think a lot of these topics, I love having these topics where, yeah, it's things that we don't necessarily know. It's not second nature to us. And thank you so much for adding to our knowledge base.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a lovely talk. And yeah, let's get connected. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sending my LinkedIn connection out. Okay. Thanks.